make sure that him and I are in the same,
Yes, you are.
frame and everything.
Yep. It's all good.
Ready?
Yep, we are recording.
Tucker, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How you doing?
Just fine.
I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. What I'm trying to do is do some oral history about good people in St. Mary's County who have a good history of it. So I'm interviewing today Tucker Brown from over in St. Patrick's Creek in the 7th District. Tucker, how old are you today?
76.
And you still working in water?
Yeah, work every day.
What are y'all doing now?
Right now we're oystering, and days we kind of sleeping in now. We don't have to get up about 3:45, 3:30, 4:45, and we can work until 3 o'clock. So that's kind of a short day for us.
Where are you getting most of your oysters these days?
Well, oysters started, had a good set, and oysters are coming back. And I think the method that we are doing now to harvest oysters has got a whole lot to do with it. It breaks the bottom back up, because the bottom, when that disease, dermo, came through, it's not harmful to humans, but it's harmful to the oysters. It's something like a touch disease, and it gets into them, and it'll lay dormant. Now it'll lay dormant until the conditions get right. Hot, dry weather is what the trigger is. That's what triggers it off.
That's what sets off the disease.
Yep, and I tell you, it can just wipe them all away now.
What do you think, because last year I read, I don't know for a fact, but I read that the oyster harvest was better, than in many years. Is that true?
Yeah.
And is it even better this year?
Yeah, it's going to come close to probably around the same mark or even better. I think in Virginia last year they had harvested like 400 and some thousand. In Maryland, I say is probably right there. And that's that'd be like kind of some of the agriculture stuff too.
And what do you think? What does your gut tell you why things are better than they were?
Well, I think it took a little while for that disease to pass by, even though the oysters have it back or infected with it again. But with the rain and stuff we have, we're not that concerned about it right now. The summertime, if it gets real dry, the summertime is when it'll hit, when it gets, temperature starts to get real hot. That's when you kind of have to watch it. And if anybody has a piece of private ground, they need to keep a check with these laboratories, take some in and have them tested fairly regularly, especially when getting into the summer months.
For the disease.
Right, for that. But oysters, Mother Nature, I guess you could say, plays a very important role into this. You can try to change things and think you're making it better, but when you interrupt the way this into the system to try to do something, sometimes it just doesn't work, And oysters last year were all across the bay. It was a broadcasting of spat just about everywhere.
Let me ask you this. I noticed for the first time in my life, there was not one sea nettle in Breton Bay this year.
Yep.
Do you think that was because of the rain, or what's your take on it?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with some rain. Our waters in the summertime, the salinity is really picking up in it. And that's going to bring, like different things. I don't even think the scientists really know for sure. You know, things, I guess it started about 2 years ago. We noticed things were changing into the river. It just wasn't the same. It wasn't like it had been in the last 8 or 10 years. Something else was going on. And especially down into the lower part of the Potomac and all. And when it gets like this, we notice things, even the shells and stuff that you would catch, everything looked like it was bleached. That's how clean and stuff some of that had got. But when you get a broadcasting set, it's good, even though the Potomac River is still not like it should be. Now, we did have a little bit of set into it this year. This is why they
What do you mean set?
A spat will set, will strike, and when you first start to see them, it'll probably look like a little dot.
Yeah.
Unless you got a microscope to put them on
the shell.
Yeah. And next time you see them, it'll look just like a fish scale on there. And but that's the reason why the seed program and all that was so important.
Is it effective?
Yeah.
The seed program?
Yeah. Well, we don't have it anymore. We got some. The St. Mary's County Water Association has done a immaculate job on fundraisers, and that's when we went through that dead spell where the disease had wiped it out. This stuff was coming out of hatcheries, and St. Mary's County Water Association, out of these fundraisers, that's what kept these watermen going around here, because that's the only thing left that they had to hit on,
Right.
to work on.
Right.
And so they did, and still doing a good job on it. And all down St. Mary's River, I'm working down through that area, and it's an unreal amount of little oysters just about like that right now. I mean, they get big enough, it is going to be something. You can go there and work, and I mean, you can make a day. The oysters didn't grow, this summer, oysters didn't grow much.
Okay.
See, the last year they just must have grown an inch or so. This year they probably didn't grow over 3/8 of an inch.
Now, is this private bars that you?
No, this is public.
Public bars.
Yeah, and it's very important that they keep the oysters in the wild, going. And we're working on a lot of things now.
Explain how that works, because most of us don't know how that works.
What you mean on the
Oysters in the wild.
oysters in the wild?
Yeah.
Well, that's public ground, and if you get a set, a stripe on the bottom from Mother Nature, that's where the one really counts. The seed that you plant that comes out of the hatcheries, sometimes you don't get as good a count out of it. When you go to take them up, they'll count them, they'll give you a count. And if you ever get in it, that's going to go, whether it goes on public ground or private ground, you want to be sure that you get a count from where you get your seed, buying your seed from. Because that's telling you pretty well is telling you what your yield's going to be. It's going to be very close. Now,
How do you get your seed on the oyster?
Well, a
Just
lot
throw it over?
of it, the waterman was doing a lot of it. Now, in the last 2 years, with the aquaculture part coming in, I know my brother Robert T, he's got like 4 of these big tanks, and he sets the spat on the shell there.
Okay, it does.
Right, and he sells it, whether it's aquaculture or if private grown,
Right.
and he also, the association will get some from him and to try to plant and bring back some of the balls where it still hasn't picked back up yet. I think it's,
So he plants a seed on the shell,
sets it on there.
sets it on there, and
Yeah.
then it's taken out and just
Right,
put on
and
the bar.
he keeps it there so long, you don't keep it there too long, 7, 8 days, 10 days, and then you put it overboard. You get a chance sometime during the summer, you want to go down and look at that operation. It's good, and he's doing, he's really doing good patch. I mean, he's really doing good.
So do you
Then
think,
then you got about 3 years, after you put it over, or 3 or maybe 4 years, for it to get big enough. Now, by setting them on a shell like that, and with the predators, you're gonna have a certain amount of that, and star logos and all that, that's already, around. You need to kind of get as many as you want on it. But when you do that, at the same time, it'll take them about a year more of growth, because we call them flower pots. They'll be just like that, be about that long, but they're thin. And you need to let them stay another year so that they will get bigger. We did that up on Pole Point a couple of years ago.
where is that?
Right there, Bluff Point, and right there in Wycomico River.
Oh, okay.
Right, and we left them there extra year, instead of taking them up to 3 years. When you take them up to 3 years, you got to beat them apart so bad. And left them there. In the 4th year, those oysters really did grow well that year too. When you went up there, they were like that, nice, wide, deep cup. That deep cup oyster, what makes a real good oyster, because he's going to get more meat down in that cup. And he really looks good, or whether it's for a raw ball or half shell or something, he really looks good, and he shucks very well. Now, and that's what here's the downside. The downside is when you know you've got a reinfection of it, you want to get that stuff off the bottom as soon as you can.
Right.
Because you want a quick turnover. So that's where the triploid oyster came in at.
Right.
Now the triploid is the same oyster that we have. The Virginica oyster is what Maryland has. It's the exact same oyster, but the only difference is that the diploid, they take the reproducing genes out of it, and so it makes it grow faster. It just feeds all the time. It just grows, just eat, and they grow faster. Now 2 years, you can kind of turn them over.
The diploids.
The diploid is the reproducer.
Okay, the triploid, they take the
Reproducing
reproducing
genes.
genes.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I'll give you an example of it. We tried what they call an OMC program on Raggedy Point. We got
What does that stand for?
Oyster Management Reserve Program.
Okay.
And we planted, 20 watermen got together out of both states, took money out of the pocket, and started this program there along with the Potomac River Fisheries Commission, because we didn't have hardly anything left in Potomac. That disease wiped it all right. I think they got down around 16, 18 bushels harvest that year. And now we're trying to build it back. But this is a separate program for these amount of people that got in it. So now we're up to, I think it's 30 some people in it. And we knew that the first year we weren't going to come out of it very good, because we were trying to see if we could get that perfect raw ball oyster. So we set it very light on the shells. And that night we had a gale of wind, and it did wash some of them down that hill. They didn't have time to sit in that bottom. So what we put overboard the next year, they're just like that. I mean, oh man, they did some horses in on that piece. But here's the thing. This year we were supposed to plant, we had 34 people. I'm pretty sure it's 34. And we were supposed to plant 158 million this year.
The state of Maryland?
No,
All the oyster?
no, this is the Potomac River Fisheries Commission.
Oh, just the Potomac River.
And the water. that we started over 20.
158 million.
Yeah, but this year, the all, everyone, you could not get lava. I mean, it was so hard to get, it was unreal. It's gotta come out of these laboratories, out of these hatcheries. And they couldn't get the lava. They couldn't, it was just one of them things that happen sometime. And when they finally did get it right, got a little bit, I mean, everybody was after it. But the people that we had, Ellen Crosby, she did a spectacular job at the Potomac River Fisheries Commission. She was on the board. We ended up with 119 million. And so we
got close.
right. And I mean, I couldn't.
And did you all put that much out, 119 million?
Yeah, well, that's what went over. We were trying to get 158, but I mean, you couldn't get it. A lot of them never got anything at all. I have a small piece of ground. I got 20 acres, right there on Blue Side, Conscious, and I couldn't even get nothing to put on that. But the program, we got one more year in the program, and then we'll have to decide what we're going to do with it. It's a great program. Anybody can get in it. You do not have to be a waterman to get in it. But I think the future for the water business, to us, we can see it start to pick up, and you always got to keep in the back of your mind, and there's nothing they can ever do about that disease. That's the reason why we went to the triploid in that program, for a jump start, to get a jump start into it, so that we can see what it's doing.
Do you think that'll be the oyster of the future, or no?
A lot of them, if they can get it, going to get it just on kind of quick turnover.
Yeah, because it's 2 years versus 3 or 4 years.
Well, yes, you can figure close 3.5 to 4 on the other oyster. Now, unless you happen to get lucky and get a rapid year of growth in between there somewhere.
Because the disease could strike in the 3rd year,
right,
and your crop would be ruined.
It could.
Oysters versus if you shorten the time, you shorten the risk.
Right. That's right. And that's the name. That's it right there. And agriculture will be a part of the waterman's future. There's no question about that. And it's a place for it. I mean, there's room there for both.
So 10 years from now, with what you're talking about, how do you envision the oyster industry?
I think if the disease don't hit, I think you're going to have to find some shop houses. Right now, that's the only thing I see about the agriculture part. They're getting their oysters to the size. Some of us have been selling a few, but when the wild comes in, that oyster in the wild is going to sell. And they need a shop house. Right. They need one of them, and I think they will find out if they got something like it. It's somewhere. I know I haven't shopped in it for a couple of years, and that was when all this stuff had died and stuff,
Right.
and I could go back in the river. It wasn't no use for me to stay there and just keep doing it and not really doing what it should be doing. So I just held back on it. I built in the North Corner Fall. We just had that house fall. Didn't sell it behind, and but we got everything. Had everything back. Took us about 6 months, and I mean, people just came down there and just jumped in there and helped. We built the whole thing back ourselves. And I'll never forget him. As a matter of fact, he got 5 bushels from me yesterday. Robert Tennyson and that Tennyson family came down there, and all our friends, all my family, and neighbor friends come in. We had so many. When you're trying to get back over, so you don't lose all your market. Of course, I had to give that away. Market to other people, try to keep it going. Right. And I couldn't leave them hanging. And
you were delivering oysters all over the place,
yeah.
weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Back then.
Yeah, that night I tell you, I mean, we were really getting things when that, that happened. But that's the future. You got to have, that they really need to look into another hatchery. Because
Where's the hatchery now?
well, we got one down here, then you got one up
At
there.
Piney Point.
Piney Point, we got another up there, the Horn Point. You got a bunch of them in Virginia, but it's not really enough.
They need more.
There's one over Deals Island. I think I'm right on this. I believe it belongs to the state. I think.
Who runs a Piney Point plant?
Tomawaski. And he does a good job. I'll tell you that. Now, the Waterman, when we move seed or any time or wherever it goes, if it comes out of that hatchery, either a running boat will go there and pick it up, or the Waterman will go there in a boat and load the boats and take it. And just see, before our seed area was up in St. Mary's River. St. Mary's River one time supplied the seed for the whole state of Maryland. Now how about that? All of it. And so then it fell back a little bit through.
Why? Because the bar was so abundant in the wild, they would take the oysters there and go everywhere.
Right, transplant them over there.
Okay.
And
What bar was that?
all up ahead.
All
But now sanctuary has been put up there,
of them. Right.
which we don't like. We like the word oyster reserve. Oyster reserve, at a certain time, you can go in and it should be able to go in and you could take off so many bushels. Closing it and leaving it, it just lets it all silt over. That's all it does. And we're it's just another thing that the Waterman, I know things seems like it works slow for them, but that bunch of bureaucracy that you got up there in Annapolis, it takes a while to beat through it.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Are you happy with the election results?
I was tickled dead.
This
Well, I lost some. I did lose some.
But I mean, in the state house, do you think
Yeah.
O'Malley did anything for the Waterman over the years?
He first started off, O'Malley, for about the first year or year and a half, looked like he was going to do good. After that, he just fed us to the wolves. I mean, he just...
Explain why.
Why?
In your opinion.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
I can't say that he ever, I know he knew some Waterman, but I think he forgot where the state was really built off of, came from farmers in Waterman all years ago. And I think he lost sight of that. I think when the agriculture part came in, he just said, let's get away from these Watermen. I mean, we lost our seed areas. Then they started putting sanctuaries in. They tell us, send us all the names of your best balls, best oyster balls. We were being straight with the man. And what does he do? Takes everyone that he could get. It took what few balls that we got left. We can't stand no more sanctuaries. St. Mary's River up there, that place needs up ahead of that, needs to be opened back up to the water. I mean, there's a lot of little groups that would love to get into that. Well, I guess they would. That's a set-up moneymaker there. Put shells overboard, sell them, to people. But I mean, that's going to be looked at. I think one thing I can say about the governor now is that I really, in my heart, believes that he is going to do some good for the whole state. I don't think he forgot where he came from.
Right.
And I think that the whole DNR up there needs to be had a hard look at. They need to go in there and do some house cleaning.
Yeah.
And get things back and get jobs back in this state, in this county, in this state. And
Tucker, I want to just add a little note on that, because my grandfather left me like 3 or 4 acres on an oyster bar over Mulberry Point, and you couldn't do much in there anyway. But what really irked me, I paid my rent every year for 25 years, then I got a letter in the mail from DNR saying they're revoking my lease because I hadn't produced any results, reports to them over the last 25 years. Well, it was, you couldn't oyster there anyway,
Right.
so how in the world are you gonna have any reports? But that's a good example
Yeah,
of just
it is.
the screw up in the administration.
And that's what they were doing all over the state. And when you plant a piece of polluted bottom, you got to take those oysters up, put them over somewhere else, and let them perish themselves out. You got to leave them there for so many days.
Has Brenton Bay been open yet with, to the best of your knowledge?
Just where you can go up to the rain line, the conditional line, what they call the conditional line, you can go up to that, and we are trying, but we just don't have the funding to go out. And here's the thing of it. You look at how many user groups that we have with discharge pipes in Virginia and Maryland that goes in this Potomac River. I don't care if it's a sewage treatment plant. We know we got to have those things. But here's the Potomac River trying to build it back and don't have the funds to do it. They should step up and say, you know, let's us help you replenish this river back. And if we could get it back, we would really and truly have something, you know, there. And
Have you seen improvement over the last 5 years?
I would say that within the last 2 years, we started noticing some things that were getting along, but, oh God, Blue Plains up here,
Right.
we met with the MDE. Blue Plains puts out more than all these other places put together.
Right.
And somewhere, you know, it needs to be done. But one thing that was really kind of disturbed us when Obama sent money to O'Malley for the cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay, I'm talking about millions.
Right.
The Potomac River and the Corps of Engineers and others, they wouldn't even so much as recognize that as a tributary of the bay. Well, if that doesn't run into the bay, I don't know what they call a tributary.
Right.
We have no objections of where they went, but they could have at least done something. That's 2 states,
Right.
and we must never lose that. There's a good relationship between the Virginian and the Waterman. Years ago, they always said that they fight all the time. Let me tell you something. They were right there probably having a little smile with one another. And because back then, in those years, it was when that depression and all came through, we had oysters. They survived it and survived it well. Because they had oysters to catch, even though they didn't get but $1.50, $2.50 a bushel for them, you know, they had the oyster to survive.
Let me go back a little bit. So, what year were you born?
38.
So you were born sort of during the Depression.
Yeah, 7/25, 38.
And what was your father's name?
Frank Brown.
What was your grandfather's name?
Sam Brown.
And were they watermen?
Yep, everyone is about 3, 4 generations of us. And
When's the first time you remember hanging out with that one water?
oh God, when I was 7, 8.
Tell me about those days.
Oh man, they were days. You didn't have no road to your house. The only thing you had was a road. You didn't have the facilities was real lean. You had a privet, you know. You had an old hand pump that you got your water from, and but it was good living. Didn't have any air conditioning, and I can remember when we first got lights put in the house. Matter of fact, Uncle Buster that lived beside us, he was the first one. He bought a TV. The screen was about 4.5, 5 inches in it, and but back then you raised your own chickens, you raised your own hogs. You had your own garden, you had 2 gardens, and during the summer, when the farmers had tomatoes and corn, it was a barter thing. You traded corn, fish for corn and vegetables, plus what you had. You would make
That was
kills.
the currency of the day.
Oh, right.
Viruses.
Yep. And you would make what we call kills out there, put your potatoes right outside the garden. You put the straw into it and put plenty of dirt over it. When you wanted turnips or you wanted potatoes, you could go there and knock the dirt right off and run your hand in there and grab some. And you had your soft crabs, of course we had plenty of grasses back then.
Right.
And I think as far as the loss of the grasses, because I was just a bystander, but I participated into that pretty good. And of course it kind of intrigued me a little bit. And it was something else to look at, a little different. And when the day that they planted that, they come down and told me, well, it was so much grass that you couldn't even hardly get your boat through it. I mean, it was aggravating.
On St. Patrick's Creek?
Everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
All these creeks. Well, we didn't pay no attention to it.
Just chock full of grass.
Yeah, and when the wheel got grass, they'd cut the engine off, we'd jump overboard, go and everything, pull it off, and then you'd go on again. Then they came out with a wheel called a wheelless wheel. You could go through the grass with that, it would throw, you'd still get some, but it would throw a lot of it off.
Right.
And areas that you fished in, we would have to take a disc. We'd go to a farm and find an old disc farming and drag that behind the boat so that when the net come in, it wouldn't roll up. And that net, it gets in that grass, it'll roll a 15-foot net up and a roll. It just look like a piece of road. And you talk about a job. So we would just cut a little area right where the net, just came right in. And you really didn't have nowhere to go, but it was a wonderful life. You would have company every Sunday. You didn't play, nobody ever played anything because you either went to somebody's house or they came to yours, and everybody would take a plate. And I'm going to tell you the truth.
So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know Mr. Guidance here.
Oh, good.
Okay?
All right, well, we're going to cut. We're going to come back to 1938 next time.
No.
And this is Tucker Brown, Part 1.